I'm going to pull up on my phone so I can see comments, at least on my page.
Cool.
The other app, we could see the comments on all the platforms. We're on 11 platforms, but this is cool. Let me just tell. Yeah, we're on.
Yeah, it was interesting that the Zoom link worked, but when I went to sign onto my laptop, I was just getting nothing inside, and
it's our frequency.
That's right.
It really is. I mean, people, I've experienced a lot of that on, doing the show, and it's real. It's not, it's not just woo woo. It's actually real. I've experienced it too many times. All right, let me just turn the volume off.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, there you are. Okay. All right, we're getting there. Let's see. Yeah, we got about 45 people in the house. They're coming. It takes, we're getting suppressed on notifications. So it takes a little bit longer. And on that note, we don't normally ask, but if these shows resonate with you on the live or the replay, please share, because we are getting mildly censored and super suppressed. We'd appreciate it. Share it to one page or a group. And then also, I just want to thank everybody for their continued love and support contributions. Somebody picked up on that my phone crapped out. Judy Baker, and evidently put a post up, and a lot of people have rallied around Soulogy, so I'll take care of that and get myself a phone. And thank you, Judy, and everybody else. We got a new friend in the house for me. I'm familiar with his better half, who's an extraordinary lady, Catherine Kinney. We've done a couple of shows together. And Jarrod, it's a pleasure to meet you. Like I said before we went live, I feel really bad for you that you're having to tough it out so much in this transition we call the Ascension. It looks like you're in a pretty rough place over there.
Yeah, I've landed here in the Byron Shire, and it's a tough place to be sitting it out. But first of all, just also like to thank you for this invitation to come and have a chat. My better half, as you would say, is present with us now with a big smile on her face. So,
oh right, cool. Yeah, tell her hi. Yeah, I loved sitting down. Yeah, I loved sitting down with her. Yeah, and I found out that Morgan was looking for some more masculine energy, and she found you, and then finds out 2-3 days later that you're aligned with Catherine. So that was kind of cool. And then I think they had a sit down yesterday. So you can't make this stuff up. The way everything's sequentially unfolding, it's like we're turning the pages in the book now, and there's no incongruence. Everything is just flowing seamlessly. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you, and you're very welcome. But thank you on a personal level for coming in and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. This is a platform where we've really moved away from the marketing and that type of energy. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's a lot of platforms out there that people can market and promote their products and services, and that's all cool. But we really, have Soulogy has always been about the hero's journey. It's been built on the hero's journey and an environment, even in the early days before we started doing videos in the group, when it was, 10, 12,000, 15,000 strong. Back in those days, people would just start telling their stories, whether it be ET visitation or paranormal or ghost or, the energy's kicking my ass and I don't know what to do, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, and I can tell that this is a moment that we've come together, you and I and everyone else, in alignment. So I don't know what's going on. It's been a pretty rough few hours for me, but I'm here showing up with my brother, and this is about you. So if you ever watch the show, I like to mess with people and say, have you always been this way? Or have you always been this weird, or did something happen to, put you into this category of all the crazy people?
Yeah, well, what's the definition of weird? I think as this journey has sort of unfolded, it got really weird, but now it just has become the normal. It feels the more weirder and more magical it's getting, the more comfortable starting to feel in that. And just commenting on that flow that we're in now, it's just synchronicities and the divine coming together of all beings that are supporting each other right now. It feels like we're so guided in this moment, and so I have you talk of the hero's journey, and that's exactly been my walk, from tradie, man filled with all the go-tos, the alcohol, the drugs, the sex addictions and gambling addictions, and had all that to work through and overcome. And it's kind of, I guess what I say, it was the way that my journey was paved out for me. It was so that I could remember who I really am underneath all these things and all these vices that I was turning to. So 3 years ago I decided, I actually had an awakening, something that we always have, something that catalyzes the thing that makes us to want to better ourselves. And sometimes that's rock bottom, and I definitely received that hard ball, that big train that just come through my reality and derailed me. And my sister was murdered 5 years ago, and that changed everything. Life become really sort of meaningless in a sense. When I experienced death so close, it was like, okay, what is this? Why do I feel nothing? How am I meant to feel? And there was just all these questions, and there was no one really there to support me and help me understand and how to deal with that. So the way I dealt with that was party. I just partied more, and I did I went further into self-destruction, and found whatever it was that I was missing in these vices. And actually, let's go straight to the crazy mystical stuff. I had an awakening at the start, through a very different way to most people. Are you familiar, Todd, with nitrous oxide?
Absolutely.
Gas?
I'm a fellow. I've traveled the same road you have.
Cool.
So
of course,
I can relate to all that.
Here we are. So the nitrous oxide days, what was a party gas, sort of eventually evolved into this. I was traveling multidimensionally. I was, being shown the secrets of the universe. I went through this sort of 6-month period where I did extensive research. As you do, you sort of, once you have a taste of something, you dive really deep into it. Well, I do. That's sort of my flow. And I just went really deep with nitrous oxide, and I developed, breathing techniques, and I was kind of being guided, as well. And I was having God experiences. I was having moments of being shown different things and how I can use them in my day to day. And I could talk for hours just old nuggets of it. I was taught in these by these beings how to be present. I was taught all these secrets of the universe, but the amazing thing, I wasn't allowed to ever speak about it, because as soon as I come out of the altered state, I didn't have a consciousness to be able to explain or even understand what I was being shown. And as the journey's gone on, I've been having these aha moments, and still, even to this day, I still have these moments of like, oh, that was what that lesson referred to, and and it was just incredible. Like I really believed that we're in a simulation. The things that I was being shown, I was shown the fabric of the matrix, and there was like literally holographic beings coming and journeying with me and teaching me things, and it got crazy, and here I am coming from a concreter, going to work and having these experiences. And I started to, share some of the insights. All of a sudden, I had this like consciousness where I was, able to see things and understand things, and I was able to help fellow brothers at work who were going through a hard time. All of a sudden, I just become super in tune and really empathic. And yeah, it was a crazy journey with that modality. I'll say it's a modality because it really brought out the best in me. But like what I realized is it blew the top off my crown. I was like Kundalini awakening. I was doing these deep, like, free diving type breath holds for 4 minutes, holding nitrous oxide. And, I was, depriving my brain of oxygen, but I think, the body releases nitric oxide as well. I've tasted that same taste doing Kundalini breath work. So there is something in that. I haven't quite unlocked the link there, but I was having just amazing experiences. And it was just like everything in this journey, there comes a time where you let go, and these beings, holographic beings, I say they were my guides at the time in human form. They just all appeared and told me, it's like, you've graduated nitric oxide, you can let that go. And I literally let the balloon go, and I was like, okay, I'm done, I'm graduated, and I received what I needed. And then that sort of led me into the splitting of the world. So I went from party Jarrod, unconscious concreter, to meeting a brother who was on his spiritual path of a few years, and he guided me beautifully towards DMT. And DMT began the journey that I went on then with plant medicine. And actually, on my 32nd birthday, I journeyed with DMT for the first time. And I knew in that moment that there was something more. It was like this big thing that just touched me on the chest and just went, hey, it's time to get a bit serious and let go of all this party stuff, And I was like, okay, I'm hearing you. I was starting to phase that out. And we talk about the breakthrough experiences with DMT, and my third time in, I had a breakthrough. I was out for 20 minutes. I was in a shared bed with my mate and his partner, and we just sort of shared this changa joint. And I went into the colors. I went into this beautiful space of being shown all these amazing things, and then all of a sudden, I just entered this void, this white void, and there was nothing in this void but myself. I was face to face with myself, and I was just stuck in this loop of my ego just going, but, and my higher self, myself is just going, nah. And I was in this loop for a while. It took me a while, and eventually I just went, okay, I surrender, whatever. You know better. And that was my first ego death. And I got spat back into my body, and it was interesting because when I got spat back into my body, I come to, and I was passing the chunga joint after I just inhaled it, and I actually time traveled. I went back in time, and I went back in again and had a whole nother experience. So I got 2 hits for the price of 1. It was so profound. And I got what I experienced was once I went through the colors, I come into this place where I was looking at the earth. And as I was looking down on the earth, I was seeing all the pyramids and the Himalayas, and I was just flying over the earth. And I experienced this feeling of peace and complete knowing that the world is perfect. And, later on, I realized I was the eagle. I was seeing through the eyes of the eagle, and I have a very deep connection with, the eagle. It's been, one of my totems guiding me on my walk. And the journey with DMT, I also come to an end. And And it was literally, I remember 3 months before my 33rd birthday, my friends asked me, "Oh, you're going to sit with ayahuasca?" And I was like, "Yeah, I feel I will," you know. And I sat with it, and I was like, "Yeah, for my 33rd birthday." And I literally got an invite to my first ceremony on my 33rd birthday. So, you know, from DMT to 32, to then a year later to be introduced to the grandmother medicine at 33. Yeah, and that was an exorcism. I received so much in that first sitting, and you know, I realized channeling, you know, all the Ikaros that were all being sung, I knew them all, and I was, you know, weaving magic in the room, you know, being a shaman, and completely in my head, you know, taking on all this stuff, and yeah, I got everything I asked for. My first experience with the grandmother, and so yeah, and that began another journey of sitting with the medicine until I had this. I guess I had a vision when I was in nitrous land, as I call it, that I was going to be helping Indigenous communities in this country. And I couldn't understand the vision that I was shown. I was like, I don't understand how. Like back then I was very unconscious and still very racist. And I couldn't understand it, but I felt it in my heart that it was true. And my journey of, you know, unconscious trading to where I ended up being here was like that's when the hero's journey began. I just realized that the 3D world, this trap of going to work, paying off a house that I was never in, you know, abusing my body with substance, there was something more. And I literally renovated my house. I put my house on the market. I built a van. I bought a brand new van. And as I was, you know, doing up the renovations for my house, I also took on a massive concreting job that I'd never done before, a cash job, completely out of my comfort zone. And it was a $60,000 cashy. And the money that I made from this job all went into building my dream home, my van, you know. And so I traveled Australia. I set a date, and I began my hero's journey in my van, which my van's name is the Bodhisattva. You know, I didn't know why I was so connected to Buddhism or where that come from, but what I okay, I've jumped ahead. What I forgot to mention with the nitrous oxide days was I was being taught things that later turned out to be Buddha teachings. So in one of the realms I went to, I meditated with Buddha in a bamboo forest. So that's important for where my journey has been. But yeah, I set off on Australia back 2 years ago, and I sort of did some vision work, and I felt that I was going to be traveling Australia for 2 years. And I set off north and went to North Queensland, and I had a partner at the time who journeyed with me for the first 3 months. And when I got to North Queensland, you know, the Great Barrier Reef, as I've always wanted to visit the Great Barrier Reef, and I just do. And I was walking the dogs one morning, and I literally bumped into a guy, and you know, in a space of 20-minute conversation, the next afternoon, I'm on a couple of $100,000 boat heading out on a fishing trip for the Great Barrier Reef for 3 days.
Wow. Far out.
With this random guy that I just met, and yeah, like just divine, you know, like I just received the guidance, and you know, the guidance to travel north was even, you know, in my nitrous days, I was shown, you know, I was going to travel north, and you know, so I was kind of shown my timeline, you know, where I was heading and how to get there. And even Xavier Rudd, like Xavier Rudd is a medicine man here, like a musical shaman, and his music is literally like the soundtrack to my life. Like the 3 albums that I was listening to during
he's good.
this awakening stage, were sort of helping me to remember. So I manifested in Townsville. Once we moved on from Mackay, I manifested front row. Here's the guy that encouraged me to travel Australia, and here he is, blessing me with these Yidaki front row at a concert at a culture festival. The guy who encouraged me to travel Australia is now playing and performing for, it felt like for me, it was just so incredible, like this, just the synchronicity and connection that I had, and it was such an emotional sort of experience. And as my journey went on, I started really sort of opening up to culture, growing up in Western world, very disconnected from culture. And like I said, I was still, dealing with racism in myself, and I couldn't quite understand. I started connecting. The more remote I got, the more I started slowing down, and the more I started connecting with culture, and the more I started welcoming in the idea. It's all very foreign, all very new. And I found myself in Central Australia at Uluru a week before the closure of people being able to climb. It was a very significant time, collectively, it's to sort of start tuning into the metaphysics of things and how they work on being at Uluru just before the closure, which it's the representation of the feminine, and symbolically, people have been walking all over the feminine, so it was very, very important that closure came. There was a big ceremony there, and a lot of people were tuned into that. But and then while I was on my journey, I was shared that the Great Barrier Reef is the masculine. So if you look at over the last 10 years, we've been going through all the climate changes and what have you. The Great Barrier Reef was in decline too. So it's just a representation of where the divine masculine was at. It was in decay. But now, knowing now that the reef is regrowing back, the divine masculine is coming back, and the divine feminine's been freed of being walked on. So this is sort of when my journey started getting a bit interesting. I was starting to tune into how this stuff all worked. And when I arrived in Adelaide, South Australia, down the bottom end, my partner, I sort of outgrew her. My frequency sort of rose dramatically, and she felt to go home, and so she left, and I was on my own for the remainder. And that's when things got really cool. That's when I got to really limitless, and I really got to follow my heart. I wasn't having to go places I didn't want to go, and I could really just honor the flow of where my heart was guiding me. And it led me to some amazing places. And early days of my awakening, just before I traveled, I was introduced to breath work, the conscious connected breathing, and I had some profound experiences through breath work where I realized I can transmute energy. I realized that I have this gift of being able to consciously connect with something, someone, and clear that energy. And I thought I had to do it through the breath. I had no idea what energy healing was. I had no idea what was unfolding. But I guess it was the early days. So when I discovered this breath work, I then started like having this deep passion and love for facilitating and wanting to help people with this, because I realized how powerful of a medicine breath work is. And I was able to connect with my sister and, you know, in a breathwork session, and know that she was at peace. And I got that closure through breathwork, you know, and I was like, wow, so, you know, there's ayahuasca, but there's breathwork, you know, I can do this myself. So I started breathing myself, and I realized I had a gift in transmutation. And I was guided to a property in Kinkin, so North Queensland. I think your beloved Morgan's just been there recently, on the Sunshine Coast there. Yeah, it was a dear brother up there. He's very connected with the ancestors of the land that he's on, and there's actually a connection with Pygmies, the tribe of Pygmies that were there. And they were early, you know, industry days, loggers coming through didn't want them there, so, you know, things happened to them. As you know, this country has a very, you know, dark history of making space for new things. So they met a pretty gruesome death by loggers. I was guided to go, you know, create space and do a breathwork session to transmute the energy for them. This is my first sort of work for the land and ancestors. And what I did, I breathed and I breathed and I breathed, and I just connected with the ancestors and invited them in. We created a ceremony, and I transmuted all the pain and suffering. But what I it's very taxing. I end up completely burnt out from, you know, taking on so much, and it was really taxing. So it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't healthy to do that. I realized that. I learned my lesson that way. But in April, just when COVID broke out, I was actually in the desert. Sorry, I'm just gonna come back onto that. There's something really important I say before that, Todd, and that's when I actually met my beloved Catherine in January, how we're connected.
Now this was 2020.
Yeah, January 2020. So
okay, I got you.
Yeah. Sorry, I just jumped.
I'm just curious. No, I keep going. I just want to get a point of reference. So from the point that you disembarked, or your former partner disembarked in Adelaide, to January 2020, what was that time period? A year, 6 months?
Yeah, so October I landed in South Australia, and I ended up meeting Catherine in January for the quadruple area.
3 months. 3 months later, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's powerful. Keep going.
You know, I was just in flow, you know, about this coming together, this ceremony that was going to be held, singing this special song, Kanyini, and I had no idea why. I had no idea. I just followed the heart, and the heart's like, you need to go there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to Uluru. So I journeyed back into the desert, 2 days drive, and I took a brother with me, dear brother Chris, and we arrived on the 11th of January. The quadruple planetary alignment was on the 12th. So I met Catherine on the hill, sitting with a very dear elder, Auntie Nellie, and I just approached her and introduced myself and asked her to share the story of Kanyini. And she shared it with me, and I felt very moved by it, and my soul was just really excited to be sitting in this company that I am in, and still didn't know why. And then Catherine passed me a book, and this book's called the Megasaurus, and it's a tale of a wedge-tailed eagle who, you know, the short version is he never felt like he fit in, and he went on this journey to find himself. He went on his own sort of heroes. Uncle Bob Rand finds the teaching of age, connection to spirit, the connection to land, the connection to the family and their beliefs. That's the Kanyini principle, and also means unconditional love. So when I was sitting there reading this book, I just started crying. I was just like, this is insane. I feel like I'm the eagle. Like, it was literally like I just connected. I knew I had to be there. And then the next night we went into ceremony and we sung Kanyini at the point of the conjunction with about 40 other brothers and sisters, and they all come from all over the world. They all felt the call. They all had their hearts were guiding them to be there. And Catherine also had people all over the world tuned in. Some were in other sacred sites, so we're singing up the song lines with this very powerful song, very, very powerful song that Catherine was invited to write. And Catherine's an amazing channel. She just channeled it in minutes. It just come through. And so we've met at Uluru, and I continued my journey on. And what come from that trip to Uluru was a lot of shadow. A lot of the shadow come attached to it. So the history of this land, and most land across the world has a very dark out, and we don't need to give too much energy to it, but it's a very dark sort of history. And what I realized is I was very connected with this. It was very connected with the darker energies. I was sort of very tuned into was playing out metaphysics. Ended up back in South Australia. I had an actual big break from plant medicine, because what I realized with plant medicine, like I think plant medicine is beautiful. It's definitely here to assist with the ascension of this planet. It's bless the plant allies, thank you. But what I find is it blows the top off the crown, where we're connecting from the crown down to the heart, and we feel like we're this enlightened through us, but it's not anchored, it's not grounded. And what I found was when I got back to Adelaide, my plant medicine sort of pulled up, and I had a big break from it for 6 months. And then I started just connecting with the breath, and I realized just how ungrounded I was when all the lower center stuff really started coming through. And in my journey, I've sort of been guided by these beings at times. I haven't really had any teachers in the 3D. All my sort of teachers and guidance has been from the etheric. We've got so many amazing allies here to assist us in this time, and they're so willing and keen to assist if we ask. And I was guided to drive into the desert on another trip in April, and I was told to have no sexual contact with the partner I was with at the time for a week leading into that trip, to really pull my energy in. And I was also guided fast. So the 2 days that I was driving back into the desert, I was just water fasting, and I did a lot of fasting in 2020. A lot of fasting. I used to be 103 kilos. Had that real need to be a big muscly man to be a man. I had that facade playing out. And I've been letting that go for the last 2 years. I'm down to 83 kilos. So 20 kilos in 2 years. It's a lot of weight to lose.
That's a lot. I think that's 35 American pounds. 35.
Yeah. big transformation. And, my father knew me as a big, muscly, go hard gym guy. And, yeah, that was pretty tough to sort of cop that flack from, friends and family. Oh, you're getting skinny. Oh, but it was perfect because it was just showing me my attachment to needing to feel big, to feel safe. So it was a really relieved moment when I was able to take that mask off and let it go and, be happy in my body. But that come with time. But this journey into the desert was so profound. Like, I ended up being guided on the 4th day. So I did 2 days of water, 2 days of juice. And on the 4th day, I was guided. I was on this property and there was this mountain in the distance, and the mountain just spoke to me and it said, "Come to me." And I was like, okay. That's what you do when mountains talk to you. So I went and walked, and as I come to this, across the road, and there was this sign on the ground laying in the dust, and it's called the Carterway. And the originals, the story that was followed is, this is where the serpent snake began its journey, and it cut its way through this mountain. And as I got closer, I was like, oh wow, you can see where, it's just this big V in this mountain in the middle of nowhere. And my guidance was to just sit on the ground in the middle of the two, mountains, and there's this perfect little sand bed. And I just sat there, and I was guided to, Shakti come through and was teaching me Kundalini breathwork. And I was just working Kundalini, and I did it for an hour, and I was just going through all my centers, and I was having Kundalini awakenings. I was sweating. I was just having, these just massive bursts of emotion just coming through. And I can't remember what I was clearing at that time. A lot of it was through sexual trauma and all sorts of stuff. But I was there for 5 days, same time every day. Just, this is the peak of lockdown. COVID's just broken out, and I'm on this mission in the desert to, clear my lower centers. And it was an intensive time in the desert. And it just showed me just how much work was needed to be done on the lower centers, to really anchoring the energies that were coming out myself back in Adelaide. And, it starts getting cooler, starts getting quite cold down the southern end. And I thought, well, I've been traveling in my van for some time. Maybe it's time I, anchor down. Actually, Todd, I'm going to rewind a little bit. There's something really important I would like to share.
Yes, please.
We went on the way, while we were in the desert, we went to Wilpena Pound, which is it's quite a magnificent structure. Like, it's an upheaval of the ocean bed when the bottom of Australia split open 500 million years ago. When it come back together and the water subsided, it pushed up this big landmass. And when you fly over it in a plane, which I did, it was incredible. It looks like, 2 hands together, like cupping. It's just incredible. Very sacred land, very sacred spot, and guided to walk into the middle, the very center of it. It just looked like a big crater, and we're guided to walk in. And when we got to the very center, there was all these rocks everywhere, and I felt to tell my partner that we were in the dead center. That was the guidance I had, and she just like tuned into what she was to do. And she just started creating spirals with rocks, and we both we didn't even rose quartz with me, a little tumbled rose quartz, and she brought I think it was satellite, blue satellite. And so she had this satellite and I had the pink rose quartz. So we seeded the center of the feminine and the male spiral in the middle of Wilpena Pound. And then everything just, from being this really glorious high vibe moment, I just started feeling so dense and so upset, and I couldn't work out what it was. There was so much anger, so much frustration coming through, and I was just like taken by it. So I said to my partner, I got to go sit with this. And what I tuned into was the ancestors of that land, the ancestors of this area. And I started transmuting without breath work for the first time. So I started just, without needing to put myself into this heightened state through the breath, I actually just felt, and I was able to clear and transmute all the pain and suffering from what happened to the people that were, brutally massacred in the genocide. It wasn't as taxing as the breath work. It didn't take it out of me as much, but it was still a big process to experience. But once I finished, I was blessed. I remember sitting there just feeling pretty overwhelmed with what happened. And all of a sudden I just started receiving all this love, and Mother Earth, the ancestors, it felt like the whole cosmos. It felt like every being just took it in turns of just blessing me with love, and I was just sitting there crying, just on country, just howling with just pure joy. And I received the info to help the ancestors, and also the beings that were still here. My walk by this stage is mid 2020, and this is when I started really tapping into my gifts as a energy worker. I have no practice. I've had no one really teach me. It's all been through experience. And I would go back into Adelaide, South Australia, with this under me, knowing that this is what I'm here to do. And I started, doing energy work, on myself. And I started being guided and shown how to, shift and clear things, my ancestral trauma, clearing past lives, and really diving into that. And then, just amongst, these moments of, deep in my own work, I would just be called by spirit. I'd have this freedom of being in my van. Everyone's in lockdown, and I'm like, well, I'm locked down. Like, my van's my home, and Australia's my backyard. So I was sort of not really affected by COVID. I was very blessed to be able to have that liberation of being able to travel and be on country whenever I was called. And I went to so many different places along the coast. One time there I was just called to drive 13 hours west with no direction, no guidance. It was just like, we need you to go here. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll go west. So I drove, and I received my instructions as I got there. And this is that continuing to trust the guidance, and one of the big things that I sort of credit to where I am here is my ability to trust and have faith in the guidance. It's like, it's been so important for me to just honor everything that I'm being shared, and showing up for the collective. But what I realize is, sometimes you need to have boundaries with spirit too, because I just started getting absolutely annihilated energetically from wanting to be in service all the time. I was just being pulled every which way, doing a lot of amazing work, which I'm grateful and honored that I got to do. But I learned that, you need to have boundaries even with spirit sometimes with this work. But I had, pretty much 8 months of traveling in South Australia, visiting all the coastline, and clearing all the massacre sites that that I come across, that I was guided to, and just tuning into the land and the spirit of the land, and how they'd share their stories with me, and and I was energizing these stories, and what the ancestors shared with me is they just wanted to be acknowledged. They wanted to be acknowledged, and before they could go, clear the past, make, yeah. So the message from the ancestors is, we're letting go of the past. We're not stuck in sorry business. We're moving on. We're forgiving the past, and we're moving on into this new earth with no resentment. And this is what I was shown every time I did work. It was like they just needed to be acknowledged. So I just like to acknowledge them here on all lands, not just this country, on all lands, because this history on this planet, everyone's got blood on their hands. No one's perfect. Realize that dark side infused into them.
See if he comes back. Whew. Sizzle. See what happens. Here, no. Well, that was an hour, wasn't it? No, 47 minutes. Powerful. There's a lot more to be told on that one. We'll give it a couple of minutes. He may not be aware. Here he comes. No, you're back. You're good. You're just muted. That's it.
Yeah, what I found, like you said earlier, Todd, about frequency, and sometimes when I'm delivering a message, some powers at play don't like it being expressed.
I think it's people used to say that, but we hit 3,000 shows sometime this month. I don't know when, don't ask me, but to me it's become obvious that it's not anything or anyone, it's you, or it's me, or it's us.
Yeah,
it's this vortex.
That's true.
No, seriously, I mean, ain't nobody out to get us. I mean, it's become obvious to me that I've watched it happen. I joked with you before that anytime we have these problems, we always have a kick-ass show, and this one is yeah. Please continue if you want to.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, the hero's journey is definitely led me, through the trials and tribulations to get to the realization of who I am and what I'm here to do, and the service that I am here to do for humanity and the planet, and I feel it expands out further into the cosmos as well. With the energy work that I've been doing, been guided to do, not only for the ancestors but also for the collective. I started receiving guidance to tune into the collective, and you know, I do a morning meditation, pillar of light meditation, and once I anchor my energies in for the day, I'd ask if there was anything to be done. And yeah, I was through, you know, a lot of 2020, shifting and clearing a lot of the densities and, you know, a lot of the energies that were present. And, you know, yeah, again, I won't energize all the story, but
That's good. Tell whatever you want to tell. Just keep going. It's up
yeah,
to you.
cool. So yeah, like yeah, I started like transmuting energy for the elements. You know, I started connecting with, you know, the water elements, mother water, and sort of deepening my connection with the elements, and you know, transmuting all the pain and suffering from, you know, the water, how she feels, you know, as a being, as an entity, how she feels, you know, being ripped off and, you know, being polluted and hurt and, you know, sold, and, you know, just the energy that's, you know, been present on this planet for so long of not respecting her, you know. So I was able to tune in with her and help her out. And the same with fire. You know, 2019, there was just this amazing, you know, fire. The whole planet was on fire, you know, and everyone had this real, you know, I guess, anger towards fire. You know, they blamed fire, but, you know, I tuned in to the reason for the fire. And, you know, if you look at the lines where the fire went through, you know, it's clearing out old karma, it's clearing out old energy from the land. You know, fire is such an amazing transmuter of energy, you know. So, you know, once the old has been burnt away, then, you know, we welcome in the new. So I connected with the element of fire also, and helped transmute a lot of the stuff that was coming through, connected with that. And of course, for our beautiful mother, like I could talk for hours around the stuff that's been clearing, you know. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey to, you know, to bit by bit, just, you know, do my own work and remember, you know, who I'm not, and remove all these masks, and, you know, let go of all the vices one by one. You know, I haven't had a drink since February 2020, you know. So, you know, letting go of alcohol was a real big one. I let go of cigarettes at the same time. I was a smoker as well. And then, then I was asked to let go of, you know, caffeine. Caffeine was another one that was sort of lowering my vibration. So I let go of caffeine. I don't think I've had a coffee for nearly a year now. I think it's probably 12 months now. I haven't kept track on that, but I realized that you know, these things, like, they're holding us back. And, you know, I've got this sort of mentality and this sort of attitude where it's like, I want to be the best version of me possible. Like, how can I do that? How can I be the most expansive version of myself? And, you know, everything that is not in alignment, I just, you know, get out my sword and just cut it away and just let it go. And, you know, alcohol, tobacco, even in November, actually, November of 2020, I let go of eating meat. Now, you know, like I talked about my gym days, you know, I used to eat, you know, ridiculous amounts of meat to try and, you know, get protein. I thought that's what I needed to build muscle, was this animal-based protein. And and it's all story. It's just more story to let go of. And, you know, our bodies need to evolve and need to adapt over time. You can't force that moment. And this is sort of what I've realized with my journey, and how much of an impact I'm going to have with sharing this message, is just like, you don't change anything because someone tells you to. You know, in that moment when it's time to leave, you know, like, I felt the moment that I had my last drink. I felt the last coffee I had. You know, I knew they were coming. And the same with meat. You know, I was already, you know, reducing my meat intake so much that, when it come time, I was like, okay, that's the last one. And just to let everyone know, tuning in, like, you know, I can read the energy that's in a piece of meat, and I can feel how, you know, how much trauma that piece of meat, you know, that animal went through before it was killed. And regardless of if it's, you know, from an organic place or whatever, there is still trauma, there is still energy that we are welcoming into our body. So, you know, for me, once I had that realization, it was like, oh, okay, so I want to be eating organic. I want to be eating things with prana, you know, fresh as possible, whole foods, alive water, not drinking stagnant water full of chlorine from the tap. You know, these are the sorts of things that, you know, in my journey I've really honed in on. And, you know, I'm sure everyone has their own experience with the dieting and, you know, what their take is. But for me, it was purely a vibration thing that, you know, I didn't have any shame or guilt around killing animals. I used to be a hunter, you know, I used to be a fisherman. And I say used to be because this is another part of, you know, as we enter into this new earth, you know, we're practicing ahimsa, you know, you're not causing any harm to anyone. So, you know, my days of being a fisherman and, you know, hunter and gatherer and all that, I let all that go. I actually buried my rifle in the Australian outback. I did a ceremony and asked for forgiveness for all the animals' lives that I'd taken, you know, and my ancestors. You know, I realized that I actually stopped that within my bloodline. You know, I stopped that for my future generations, you know, and for the planet, you know. So these are all the things that I've been asked to let go of on my journey, you know, and you know, the deep connection that I had with my father, especially with fishing. It was like our bonding thing, you know, as a father son in Australia, going fishing is a really big thing, you know, as it probably is worldwide. So when I told my dad, hey dad, like I can't actually go fishing with you anymore, it was probably the hardest thing. I've had to look in my father's eyes and say, hey mate, like it's been fun but no more. And you know, it was really hard for him to understand it, but over time he's respected it, and he's respected my choice to you know, go vegan. But yeah, and what I've realized, like on this journey, you know, I've been shown all these amazing things. You know, I've been introduced these experiences that are all, you know, there's all lessons in these stories. Like there's so many nuggets of wisdom in the stories. Like when in winter I started journeying in South Australian pine forests, really connecting with the mushrooms. I started my journey with psilocybin. I never sat with them before. And yeah, I just, being in the forest all the time with nature, being, you know, with the spirit of psilocybin, I was, you know, introduced to so many different teachings and so many, you know, deeper connections to land because of, you know, being in the altered state. Of course, I was sort of really connecting deeper. But I had a very shamanic experience in the receiving of my medicine drum. As I said earlier, I was sort of under the impression I was going to be a shaman in this lifetime. I thought this was my purpose. You know, I thought I was going to be working with these plants. So I was gathering my medicine tools, and I went on this journey with this deer from start to finish, where I met the deer in the forest and communicated with the deer. I was able to, you know, speak with the deer and receive the blessing of this deer to receive a skin from one of these deers. And I've already been told that I can't kill. So I'm like, well, how's this going to happen? So, you know, I need someone, a conscious man whose energy is pure to, you know, to help with this process. And literally he appeared. He appeared like that. As soon as I received the blessing, he appeared. Beautiful brother down Adelaide. And so the journey began with, you know, from being given the blessing by this deer to the actual day was 2.5 months of being patient and receiving this lesson by nature, you know, not forcing anything. Because there was, what I noticed, there was an old buck and there was a young buck. And the guidance that I had was that I was going to receive the skin of the old buck, but I couldn't until the young buck was ready. So I was just, the property that I was staying at was back on this forest, and I was just going up into the forest every day and just being with these deer and just connecting and learning from the deer, and just being in nature. And this guy was like, when's it going to happen? I'm keen. I'm like, you need to be patient, brother. I really need you to just be patient. And I ended up going to Queensland. I flew home to Queensland. I did a men's retreat up there, and on the plane on the way up, I did a shamanic journey where I just took myself on this journey on the plane, and I went into Middle Earth, and I met with the deer spirit. And I asked the deer spirit, for the details of how it was going to unfold. Like I didn't want there to be any confusion. I wanted to know. So I met with the deer spirit, and I asked him to, for the deer to be out in the open, in the yard. And he was like, yes, he'll be there. And I said, on the Wednesday before the Saturday, when I'm to go into the forest, I want to see a wedge tail circle the house on the Wednesday. And so that was the shamanic journey I had, and I was confirmed, like, this is going to happen. Yep. So my dad picked me up from the airport, and where my parents live, there are no wedge-tail eagles. It's not the sort of place that a wedge-tail would be. And my dad, as we're driving home from the airport, he just points up and goes, "Is that a wedge-tail?" I was just like, oh man, full goosebumps. I was like, yeah, okay, that's confirmation. Like, yeah, received. And so I went to the men's retreat, did what I had to do there. And when I come home, the guidance I received was to go into the forest. And there's a guy that hosts online Vipassana retreats. And so my guidance was to enter the forest with a hiking backpack, all my stuff to live on for 10 days with, carried my water in. I set up my space, and just with my phone, this guy was doing this online Vipassana where I just meditated for 8 to 10 hours a day and learnt Vipassana. And this is like the most profound thing. Back in the early days when I was playing around with the nitrous oxide, and I met Buddha and I sat with Buddha in meditation, I soon realized that following the sensations throughout the body that you experience in Vipassana was exactly what I was doing every night. I went to bed for 6 months before, I finished nitrous oxide. Like, Buddha was teaching me Vipassana, like 4 years ago. And so as soon as I started doing Vipassana, I was like, I know this. I have been doing this. This is very familiar. And yeah, I had profound healing, just being in nature, connecting with, all sorts of different beings coming through and assisting. And it was incredible to, no human contact, just to be, away from the world and just meditating and, not talking and eating very minimal, just brown rice and sesame oil and avocado every now and then. But yeah, once I finished that journey, with Vipassana, I went out and I practiced Vipassana in a Chinese restaurant that was just full of loud, drunk people, and I experienced, equanimity in a crazy place. So I was sort of like, got a completely different, experience to most people's Vipassanas, but my journey is definitely different to most people's. It's very unique, and that's what makes this, my hero's journey. It's my path and my unique way. And I learned very early on not to follow the path of others. It's like, my heart is the, true north. It's my barometer of what's true and where to go. And so yeah, I've really, in my journey, held everything to my inner knowing, instead of seeking others to help and teach me. And it's always sort of been an inner journey, and working very closely with spirit. So yeah, from there, from finishing Vipassana, I went from there. My guidance was to sit with mushrooms on the 10th night. So I just done this massive dietary prep, come out of Vipassana, and then was guided to sit with this heroic mushroom dose. And yeah, I just follow orders, and I end up experiencing about 11 hours of deep energy work, transmuting all the pain and suffering from my ancestors and my lineage and past lives. I was getting pulled every which way. It was so traumatic. It completely blew my nervous system apart. But the transformation that come from that was so profound. And when I finished that morning, this was on the equinox too in September. The next morning, I come home back to this property all frail and, you know, destroyed from this journey. And the guy who I was staying with was in the backyard. So I just went and had a quick chat. And while we were talking, it's a Wednesday. And the wedge-tailed eagle just started circling the house. And I received the confirmation. I just broke down crying. Like my whole body just fell to the ground. I was just like, you know, from start to finish, I've been watching this deer grow and been, you know, just having this experience. And so I got the guy to come over on Saturday. We created ceremony and, you know, blessed everything and, you know, cleared the energy of everything. And we did the process, and, you know, no details needed, but, you know, it didn't go to plan. It completely backfired. The male deer that I was guided was in the backyard completely, you know, old mate took his time. Everything, you know, was looking perfect. And he took the shot. We went to go get the deer, and the deer jumped up, Todd, and run away. And we tracked it for hours. Couldn't find him, and I was just destroyed. I was just like, what's the lesson? Like, what is this lesson? What am I here to learn? You know, like, this was perfect. I followed everything. And my mate ended up asking me, we come across a female deer, and he asked if he could take the shot. And I was like, brother, this is on you. We don't deserve to be in this forest right now. And so I left it up to him. And he felt good. He was going to feed his family. And I was like, okay, that's what your heart feels, mate. You go for it. It doesn't feel true for me. So he took the shot. Anyway, we ended up back down at the property, and I could not let it go. I was so distraught. So I went back up once he left, and I looked for another 4 hours to try and find him. And eventually I had this process. I come across a dead kookaburra, and, you know, kookaburra is my totem. And the kookaburras, you know, the message that come through was just like, you need to let this go. You need to let it go. And I was just like, I can't. Like, this is, you know, this is so, like, connected to my heart. And I eventually let it go. And the very next day, a friend of mine who was also in Vipassana at the same time, you know, I reached out to her, and she told me, she's a very connected sister, very cosmic. She told me that she, in her Vipassana for the last week, she was actually with the deer. She was with the deer, and the deer spirit asked her to be with this young deer until he was ready, because the old deer that I was guided to receive, to take down, he was actually ready to leave this realm. He was ready to go, and he wasn't able to go until the young one was ready. So Hiroko was helping him.
It's all connected, right?
Yeah. And, you know, and when she told me all this, I was just like so relieved, Todd. Like, my heart was like, okay, I don't feel like a bad human being, because I felt terrible. Like, you know, tuning into that emotion now, it's still, it was still traumatic, you know. But then, you know, I've had this experience where she's, you know, it's okay. It was meant to happen. I was like, okay, so I can trust now that this is meant to happen. Like, you know, it doesn't always go how you think it's meant to, you know, it's not always perfect. You know, you can be guided this way, and then that, you know, it goes that way real quick, and you just need to trust that. and surrender to that. So yeah, I received this doe, the female deer, and what I realized is, like, you know, my heart at this time was being guided to, you know, help men in men's work. It's like, well, and I realized, why do I need a masculine drum skin? Why do I need the masculine energy to help men? I need the feminine. I need the soft feminine energy. So I received the doe, and I began that journey. But where I'm going, I don't know how much time you got, Todd. How are we going there? I like the flow. I'm just tuning in with you.
Well, I'm open.
Cool.
I'm going to have to go to the little boys' room here in a minute. We can take an
Cool.
intermission. Yeah, because I feel like I'm in the first half. Because I know you're in a conscious relationship, and I have personal experience in that type of thing. And there's a before and after, regardless of how much expansion the masculine does. There seems to be it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Once the
together.
halftime show is over and the introductions are made. So yeah, you wanna hang out another 30 minutes or an hour, and let me run to the let's take a break.
Sure.
If you're up for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
down.
let me
Right.
I don't want to bore people, so let me find something to fill the space. Why are these people talking to me? Okay, let's see. Let me just pull something up real quick. I don't want to put anything up here that will cause any problem. So let's put something from our studio up. Yeah, this is very cool. I'm digging it. I feel like we're at halftime, so let's I'm just going to pop something on here for 2 or 3 minutes. Let's see what we got. Let's see, and I need to plug this phone in as well so I can see what's happening. Here, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Let's do this one. This is an easy one. All right, hang on. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a powerful potential activation, I think, for everybody. There's good information here. So let's see. Let's go here. Share sound. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Got a little soul speak on the ascension that we all share. This unveiling, this apocalypse. You know, all this discussion of what is reality, conspiracy, heresy, truth that's stranger than fiction. Doesn't get any better than this. It's not just time to bring on the apocalypse, it's time to start riding it. It's not going to hurt us. Because one thing's for sure, in our conscious mind and even in our subconscious, if that's what you want to call it, we have always survived. And the reason for that is because we never die. So when it comes to ascension, what else is there to talk about? This ascension, unveiling, is not complicated. It's just a microcosm of the state of our being from any point, from this present moment to any point in our past. And in regard to the past, now we can look back to see, to awaken without the element of linear time. Yeah. Because the wisdom still comes. Because the universe is never late. That means we can take from our past the powerful wisdom of the eternal moments, seen when we unveil the hurts and the blame given and received. You know, we've reached a point where forgiveness will cease to exist. Because perfection did not create forgiveness, but as a path to a higher perfection, a new reflection of itself, of ourselves. Yeah, it's true. It's just not necessary forgiveness. and neither is earth love. So we can stop chasing both right now and all the false securities and failed searches that go with the lofty goals of a moral world. Both the things that they put beyond our reach and the reasons they gave us for not being able to reach them. It's time to re-enter the fold of the immortal, the fold of the I Am soul. Okay, halftime's over. Let's see. This. Boom. Let's see here. Where are we at? Did you take a break?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Otherwise, I'd have just left you on the screen. That thing was 3 minutes and 33 seconds. I mean, I didn't realize how much liquid I had contained within my body. Because I'm like you. I'm juicing and drinking a lot of water, and yeah, that was yeah. So we can let me check the other. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we got about 100 people on here. Okay, so yeah, I don't know where you want to.
Yeah.
Pick up
Guess
from,
where I was.
but
Where else I left it at was I was heading in the direction of just sharing, like finishing the journey with with the deer just taught me a lot about trust and surrendering to that. And my journey down in South Australia was filled with these. I built at this property. I built a cabin. I put about 100 hours and about $2.5 grand worth of energy into building this shearing shed, this sheep shearing shed, up to be a living space. And yeah, after that, the journey finished with the deer. The guy that I was staying with, his whole, the communication that we had, it just wasn't transparent enough. And yeah, he decided that I just about completed this cabin. I was just about to move in. I was just about to finish it, and he didn't want me there. He didn't want the work that I was going to be bringing there. He didn't want energy there. He didn't, which I had to respect and let go of.
so you triggered him.
Yeah. Well, as he would say, we were both big trees. We're both big trees, and big trees need space, and yeah, he's a beautiful brother. Like, we've unfortunately drifted apart, but that's the journey, right? As we grow, people go, and no attachment is kind of another big thing that I've really learned in this journey. But yeah, I had to let go of this property. I had to let go of all the work I'd done with no attachment, and yeah, I just walked away and trusted that there'd be a new vision. And yeah, the vision come through. That's, you're going to be doing it somewhere else. So again, it's like, okay, I'll just follow. I keep saying yes. I keep going to where the path is taking me, with no attachment to the detour, And
so you had this closure with the mirror of the masculine, because I mean, honestly, two big trees, that sounds like an old school distorted masculine cop out, if you ask me.
Yeah,
because I can say that because I've made, I've been that person, right? But so what's it like on the what's it like in the second half? You go to Uluru, you meet this woman who's sitting with an elder. That was what, January 2020.
January.
Was there like a was it like game on from that point, or was there like a ebb and flow to it, where you kind of connect and then you separate and you connect and you separate? Does that sound familiar? Does that?
So yeah, with me, in regards to me and Catherine, we, after Uluru, we just remained friends. We were, I was supporting her energetically with things, and she was activating me and helping me remember who I am through numerology, cosmic numerology, and we sort of become pretty good friends. We remain friends through phone contact, and we would have conversations that would go for 2 or 3 hours, and that would just go like that. And I don't really have conversations like that, so it was really surprising. But
when did you realize for yourself that she was something different, or that for you it was something different? How long did that take?
So in December the 21st of December, the solstice, I completed one more trip into the desert, and completed the work that I had started back in January. Being at these special places, at a special grid point in South Australia. And after that trip to the desert, I found my way over to the east coast of Australia, where Catherine was, in January. And exactly 1 year to the day, we reunited. So the 11th of January.
You can't make this shift up, man.
You can't, right? It's
so 1 year to the day, you see you're in the physical again.
Yeah.
Did your Kundalini take off, or did that take a little while?
Yeah, it took a little bit, man. It's interesting. Like I just left a partner, again, my journey of unattachment. I left a journeying partner to come over to the East Coast, and literally, so I just broke up with a partner because I had to follow my soul. And so as I entered, east of Australia, it was a completely different, I wasn't looking for another journeying partner. And these things, you don't force anything, but you don't block them either. So me and Catherine, we just we become close, and we shared things, and in no time at all, we'd sort of realized that we had something special. And just from journeying with Catherine, as a cosmic numerologist, the numbers explain so much. And our blueprint, our individual blueprint, has I have a whole bunch of numbers that Catherine doesn't have, and she's got a whole bunch of numbers that I don't have, vice versa. And so as far as the twin flame experience, we're bringing the best out of each other in a nice way. We've been dancing through the shadows.
So it's just been smooth sailing the whole time, right?
Yeah, just like that. Just easy grace.
Yeah. Right. Come on. So, but it's really coming to the forefront. We should get y'all on here and talk about this at some point, because it's coming to the forefront. If you go back a few years, you're right. You started this thing, you were saying 2016, 2015, something like that. That was actually the time that I remember seeing particularly women talking about the divine feminine had landed. And then, of course, there's been this whole evolution. And so it seems like that the last few months, certainly that feminine energy has made itself known, and it's turned on, and it's not going to be turned off. But also, because of that finality, I think, that 51%, that tipping point being reached, that the true masculine energy is starting to come up. And there just seems to be in these stories some common patterns. I'm just curious as to, in fact, my journey is very similar to yours. Mine was a lone journey. It was a masculine distortion of himself in the world, and then the construction, you think, or I thought, until the point that I came into a face-to-face with that other energy, the feminine. And then there was a whole new, it wasn't even a new world, it was like a new universe. And there was a whole lot of revelation and epiphany and growth and shadow work and so on and so on and so on. So I think you might be able to relate to that. Was yours similar to that? Has it been a new world, a new set of eyes, plural?
Yeah, so I wasn't aware. See, so I don't do a lot of reading or follow a lot of people's stuff, so I wasn't aware that we had two aspects of ourselves. No, I thought I was. No, I thought I was here to, heal the masculine. I didn't know there was a feminine aspect. I wasn't getting that reflection in previous relationships. So, journeying with Catherine though, and Catherine's wisdom, and she's helped me really to understand this. I'm so blessed to journey with someone who has been awake for such a long time and has come a long way on a journey to be able to hold space, literally hold space for me, my little boy. I realized I was a little boy in a man's body.
Really? Let me ask you a question. Did you think you were a little boy in a man's body before you ran into her?
I didn't feel it, but then I felt like I was a man, Todd. And like, I'll be honest, man, a lot of inner child stuff coming up, a lot of mum and dad wounds coming up, and just like, man, where does one begin to explain the journey?
It's a bit. Was it a bit challenging?
Nah.
I love your approach. Yeah. I'm just feeling the alignment and the symmetry. Morgan and Catherine hooked up yesterday.
Yeah.
And then spending this first half with you, I'm having a lot of stuff was coming in. It calmed down after about an hour and 15 minutes, but there was a lot of stuff coming in. But when they met yesterday, I inexplicably went down, like deep, like I went out, boom. And it just doesn't really happen to me like that. So I knew something was happening, and I connected with Morgan afterwards, but I'm looking forward to viewing that session, because I know that there was something powerful happening, and obviously there's no mistakes and there's no coincidences. So if I'm giving you a bit of the business, it's just because I'm having some fun, because one of the things, that realization that you're talking about, that there's another part to you, it can humble you, and does humble you, and humor is a great tool. So I'm just poking at you, and I think
Yeah. I think humor's the only way we can navigate this reality and stay sane. Like, we can lose ourselves so much if we take it serious. Like, I've had so many moments connecting with spirit, and just the sense of humor that comes from the divine it's incredible. Like, it blows my mind, the cosmic jokes.
Well, it's funny too, because I can relate to your story again. I mean, you have these incredible divine episodes. They happen all the time. They happen every day. You're pretty much the only one that witnesses them, but the proof is there. And then you run into the other side of you, so to speak. And it's pretty, that's a pretty heavy thing. But I appreciate these stories, because I think that there's, as the individuals go, so goes the collective. So there's something to be said for my story, your story, our story with our partners, and so many, and everyone, really. I mean, there's a relevance to this energetic play, this interaction between masculine and feminine that both occurs inside, and also with a physical counterpart. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in it, and I think a lot of that wisdom is starting to come out slowly from men who are coming clean, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't really get there, whether it's the individual journey or even in a couple, whether you're the masculine or the feminine, unless you come clean. And that's what we, you know, we I guess that's what the Soulogy platform is, that you know, that transparency that requires vulnerability, that you know, when it's there, offers you that power that you didn't know you had, right? It's,
Yeah.
you know, so I don't know what light you want to shed on that experience that you've had. You know, I don't want to ask you personal questions or
Yeah.
anything, but you know, if you but yeah, I mean, it's I guess what I'm saying too is that right now I think the man's perspective, the man's journey, which you so brilliantly described in your own case, which again reflects the collective, is so important, because I don't think it's been understood because it hasn't been spoken. And so there are two halves to that. There's that half where you think, wow, I'm connecting and I'm really powerful and I'm lit. And, you know, it's kind of like you said, and I feel the same too. I have said the same thing. I want to help the men. What I didn't understand was that I was the man that needed to be helped, right? which really the feminine,
yeah,
shows the masculine energy that, and again, we're talking energy, but it does play out in physicality, but because he can't see it, because in his journey, he has, you know, and not in a bad way, but his head's in the sand because of the conditioning. The patriarchal has a masculine flavor to it. So who was the you know what I mean? Who was, you can make an argument either way, who got the worst end of the deal, but in terms of deprogramming, I think it's these stories of the man's interaction when he thinks he's gotten to a certain point and then runs into that, almost like that energy doesn't step in until the masculine gets to a certain point. It's almost like a setup to where you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And it's a humbling thing.
Very,
so
very humbling.
But
very
what are the standouts? You know, just, you know, general terms, general terms, and on a personal level if you want to. But I'm just saying, like, in order to, you know, put some new code on the table, some fresh new code for everybody.
Yeah, sure. So what comes to mind is, you know, with this journey of realizing that, you know, you need to, you know, there's these levels and layers, and I see it in men's work. You know, there's this real primal kind of come through, stomp your feet, beat your chest, you know, tap into this warrior, you know, archetype, and, you know, feel whole and complete in your masculinity. And, you know, and then, yeah, like you said, that humbling realization is, hey, there's this whole other aspect of you that is just being neglected. And that's the feminine aspect, you know. And she's sitting there, like, literally with her arms crossed, just tapping her feet, looking at you like, hey, like, this isn't enough. Like, if you're going to show up for the feminine, you need to be in touch with your feminine. So, you know, I had this realization, and it was just like, okay, I am doing things from a masculine way, trying to support my feminine. It's like, okay, I need to understand my feminine. So I further understand that by understanding my partner. And, you know, the journey that, you know, we've been on has been helping me to reconnect with my own feminine. You know, knowing that she's soft, you know, she's playful, she loves to dance, Todd. Like, she loves to dance, you know, she feels sexy when she dances, you know. So tapping into all these parts of me that I've suppressed and, you know, laid down. And, you know, in our culture, you grow up, you're taught to be a man, you're not taught how to be connected with your emotions and your feelings and all these, you know, these softer aspects of us. So, you know, the dance between the masculine and feminine is, you know, we need to remember that we're both. And, you know, I'm very blessed and very lucky to have such a embodied, feminine to journey with for that reflection, and even with the inner child stuff, like, the childhood stuff that comes up, it's just furthermore, there's the inner child feminine, there's the inner child masculine, like there's just so many layers to our being that was suppressed. And at times you can hear when the the feminine teenager wants to come through and feel bratty, and like, this is in with me, so we have all these aspects within ourselves playing out that all want attention and all want love, so yeah. And I just see, like, I love what men's work is doing. I love how it's it's helping men reconnect to that primal, but I kind of feel like I haven't been really dived into that experience myself, because I feel what I want to bring through with my partner is more embodied, more coming together and working on both aspects in the same space, when people are ready, because it's like a level, like you said, Todd, like, you need to discover your masculine. I feel there's this place in your journey where you discover the masculine, and then it's like, hey, let's expand and welcome in that feminine. So yeah, my days of stomping my feet and beating my chest are over.
Well, I mean, you have a pretty good physical representation. I mean, you were this, muscle bound, alpha male. I never was muscle bound, but I can relate to the alpha male thing. And then you had this journey. I think mine was 4 years, 4.5 maybe, before I met Morgan. So very similar situation, but like what you said, I think is pretty accurate. The only difference is, at least then, or even in your case, then you don't go, okay, I'm going to go get my masculine reworked and reconstructed. Then I'm going to move to my feminine. It doesn't seem to work that way. Just like you clear the space, and that which is already there starts to surface. And sometimes you have the good fortune of being able to have a physical incarnation represent that, one single partner, and that's a blessing. But yeah, it's a hell of a dance, isn't it?
Yeah. And at the start of my journey, when I was traveling in my van, I went from being a workaholic, stuck in masculine energy of needing to get stuff done. I was that guy, can get anything done. And then when I started traveling, I hung the boots up to the masculine, and I went complete other way, and I went into the feminine of doing absolutely nothing, but going inward and being really soft and really gentle. And so I kind of had that forced upon me, to let go of the masculine in my journey to then rediscover the feminine. But then bringing back in that masculine and finding that balance was a big thing that sort of landed for me in 2020. But yeah, this twin flame divine union is a whole nother level to that again. It's like I am seeing the manifestation of me reflecting back, and it's an amazing journey. It's tough, it's challenging, it's not for the faint-hearted. I won't we laugh and joke about it. It's very testing, very arduous sometimes, but it's coming back to love. We just keep choosing love.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true, because it's the human part that either gender, I think, it's the human part that has the struggle. The rest of it doesn't have a struggle too much, because there's obviously it's energy, it's an energetic scenario, and those energies are what kind of magnetize things, right, and pull it together. And then you have what I found interesting was and I don't know how you feel, but having these divine episodes as an individual, and that whole thing happening, my whole self-awareness and expansion and so on, for the things I was aware of. But then to have those things happening and another person's present, that's pretty mind blowing, right? I mean, that's like, I thought the universe was this big, but it's not. It's I don't even know how big it is, because it's more than double what I thought, just because there's two of us, right? I mean, so yeah, it's yeah, we should get y'all on here, and
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
okay, so we can probably be better suited to have that part of the conversation with both of you present. So yeah, I can't believe we went 2 hours. I'm
like that. Hey?
I know I usually go an hour, and sometimes I'll go an hour and a half. But yeah, that first that was a really interesting and powerful story. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I can't wait to get over there. I know it's coming, and I'm not attached to or when that happens, because I know it's coming. But you know, it's just it's a fascinating. I think it's a fascinating continent, and I think it's the probably like a central command for transformation in this world. It just feels that way to me. But
yeah, it really feels like, you know, from what I've been showed and, you know, it's been shared with me, this is the place to be. Like, this is from a karmic perspective, you know, this land, the amount of karma that, you know, it hasn't experienced, so to speak, compared to the rest of the world. This is why, you know, it hasn't been so intense in Australia as to the rest of the world, and, you know, not given it energy, but, you know, all the stuff that's been happening, it's because it has a lot more karma in the land from thousands of years more of stuff. So I feel like Australia, especially the East Coast here, is very significant to the birthing of the new Earth.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And then you look at, well, maybe, you know, Morgan and I were talking about this. She was talking about how, what was she saying? Oh, how they found evidence. I guess it would have been, you know, what do they call them? Glyphs or hieroglyphs in South America from the Aboriginal, you know, oral history. And then if you look at like the central part of the Midwest, not Midwest, the central part of the Western Central U.S., where you've got the Grand Canyon and what they call the Four Corners, they have the same thing on the caves there that they do in Egypt. Yeah. So on the surface, it's certainly, to me, I agree with you. It looks like that's the hot spot. That's the core. That's where you have the most polarity. You know, what I thought, and I think many people thought, was a very progressive country. You come to find out it might be the most suppressed, right? So there's your ingredients. But what I'm talking about is like a tree, you know, the roots of a tree. We don't know what's going on underneath. It may all just be the one big continent, you know, one big supercontinent, that it just doesn't look that way because of the way that we've been conditioned to perceive things. But I think it's going to be exciting. I'm anxious, you know. I'm just excited to see the things that are happening. I know that sounds crazy to some people, this chaos, but, you know, we all know that the outside world's a reflection of ourselves, and we all know the chaos that we've been through and that we've transformed. So here we go.
It's exciting.
Is Catherine around you right now?
She just walked in. She's got a.
I was just going to say hi to her. But I'm looking forward to Morgan was telling me a little bit about the numerology thing, and our numbers evidently were pretty substantial. And I think that I'm pretty sure that's why I got knocked out, because
absolutely
I could feel Morgan's frequency went through the roof, and it just, I mean, it floored me. In fact, I'm still not recovered, to be honest with you. You know, you talk about ayahuasca and you talk about mushrooms, and I feel like for the last 12 hours, like I came off a heavy dose, you know, when you're kind of like this and you can't think straight, you know what I mean? But it's a pleasure meeting you. And I look forward to continued collaborations. I look forward to meeting you in person. It feels very resonant, and continuing the discussion about what's happening in real time. And I appreciate your candidness and openness and honesty, and just, you know, you're being real, and I think it's very helpful for people. So I got a lot out of it, and yeah, just thanks.
Yeah, thanks heaps, brother, for holding the space for me to share my story. It's the first time, publicly I've shared a lot of that. So it was,
Wow.
yeah, it was a really beautiful place to be able to share that. And yeah, I'm
Perfect.
honored for the invite, and I look forward to come over here, man. This is where it's happening. This is the party. This is
I'll
where
be
it's at.
there. Like I said, I'll be there even if I have to swim, but I'm planning on teleporting. I'm not
Yeah,
going to rely on the 3D constructs to get over there.
that's it.
Use
Just
a
that Merkaba is activated, right?
That's right. I'm dead serious. And you know, you got to speak that shift into existence, right?
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm more connected to, like, the portals. I'm sure, there's ways we can just
Mm-hmm.
step
Mm-hmm.
behind the veil and end up, downtown Byron. It's all
Yeah.
linked.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm dead serious, and I've
Yeah.
actually got more of that information the first hour and a half on this show.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you, I'm getting all this other stuff, and that was part of it. But it's all coming. There's no rush.
Be fun.
We didn't come this
Yeah,
far
man.
just to come this far. So we know we're going to complete this thing. I
That's
appreciate
it.
you, brother. Peace out.
That's up, brother.